Hello students, it's good to be with you again. Today we have a very different type of story. It's called How Does the Toothpaste Get into the Tube? Yes, that's right. It's an interesting, actually a fun story about how do they get the toothpaste into the tube. Let's read, and I hope you enjoy the story.
Let's have a look at today's title page. We can see a big picture. In the picture, we can see a tube of something with white stuff coming out. Yes, it's a tube of toothpaste with toothpaste coming out. Let's look at the title of today's story. How does the toothpaste get into the tube? Wow, interesting question. Something I've wondered. Let's start reading and find out a little bit more about how does the toothpaste get into the tube. Let's turn the page. Let's start at the beginning. The year was 1870. New London, Connecticut, United States. 7 a.m. in the morning. Kids were tumbling out of bed, their mothers hurrying them to clean their teeth, handing them toothsticks and jars of toothpaste. Okay, we'll stop there. Let's have a look at the picture. So it's way back in the 1870s, so well over 100 years ago, about 150 years ago. It was in America and the children were getting out of bed, just like we do today. But to clean their teeth, they had to use a thing called toothsticks and a jar of toothpaste. Interesting. Let's keep reading. Let's see what happens next. Turn the page. What? Did I just say toothsticks? Yes, that's right. Toothsticks. They used toothsticks to clean their teeth way back in 1870. A toothstick was simply a twig with a frayed end. Some lucky kids had twigs with pig's hair tied to one end for that extra shine. So it looks like children 150 years ago, they didn't have a real toothbrush. They just used a stick to clean their teeth. Wow, that would be different, wouldn't it? Let's keep reading. Let's turn the page. And what was that other thing I said? Jars of toothpaste. That's right. Toothpaste tubes were not invented yet. They only had jars. And every sleepy kid started her day by dipping a toothstick into a porcelain jar filled with this old-fashioned toothpaste. We can see in the picture there, the little girl, she's sticking a stick into this funny big jar to get some toothpaste. It doesn't look like fun. Let's keep reading. Let's turn the page. The other problem was everyone in the family needed to dip their toothstick into the same jar that every other member of the family had dipped their toothstick into, including that visiting old auntie with yellow and blackish teeth. Yuck! Oh no, they had to all share the same jar and put the stick into the jar to get the toothpaste, then put it into their dirty mouth and put it back in again. I don't think I'd like that. Let's keep reading and see what happens next. Let's turn the page. One morning, a disgusted cry went out from a local boy called Lucius. It was the home of a dentist's. You! It was Dr. Sheffield's son, Lucius, who refused to dip into the jar anymore and decided to use his own tooth powder instead. But a thought remained in his mind. There must be a better way to use toothpaste than dipping a stick into a dirty jar. It appears that young Lucius didn't want to stick his toothstick into a dirty jar anymore. Let's see what happens next. Let's turn the page. A few years later, Lucius had grown up and he went to Paris to study the science of dentistry. There, he saw artists squeezing paint from metal tubes onto their paintbrushes. Why couldn't the same type of tube be used to hold toothpaste? After this discovery, he rushed back home and shared this idea with his father, who thought that it was just a totally amazing idea. So Lucius went all the way to Paris in France, and he saw someone painting using a tube of paint. He was thinking, I reckon we could do this with toothpaste. He didn't like using the jar, did he, when he was a young boy? He's got an idea, I think. Let's find out. Let's turn the page. He then needed to figure out how to get the toothpaste from a jar into the tube through that little opening. How do you think Lucius could fill toothpaste into an empty tube? Have you ever had a bad morning when you squeezed way too much toothpaste into your toothbrush and it all went over the sink? How would you go about putting the toothpaste back into the tube? Is it possible? Now, how do you think Lucius and his father filled the tube with toothpaste? Okay, let's have a look at that picture above. And Lucius is thinking, how do we get the toothpaste into the tube? Because the opening is only little where you take the cap off. How do you get it in? They had to come up with a good idea. Let's see if they did. Let's turn the page. It was not as messy or as difficult as you may think, because the way Dr. Sheffield and his team did it was without even opening the cap. That's right, they kept the cap screwed on tight and opened up the other end. It's definitely easier to fill a tube from the larger end, especially if you have to put all that toothpaste in it. After they put the toothpaste into the tube, all they had to do is seal the end tight so that the toothpaste would not leak out. Wow, they came up with a great idea, didn't they? Don't fill the toothpaste up from the small end. Use the big end at the other side and fill it up that way. Let's keep reading. Let's turn the page. Today, toothpaste tubes are filled using machines. All the empty tubes are lined up on a conveyor belt with their caps downwards and the unsealed end pointing up. A big container filled with toothpaste is fixed above the conveyor belt. Wow, look at that. You can see in the picture the toothpaste going in the back end. Let's keep reading. Let's turn the page. From a nozzle at the bottom of the container, the toothpaste is squirted into each of these tubes as they move along the conveyor belt. But the paste is not filled all the way to the top. About half an inch is left so it can be sealed up. Now the tube is ready to be squeezed. Wow, so that's how they do it. They put the toothpaste in the end and then they seal it up. Next page. That's the end of today's story. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about how toothpaste gets put in the tube. Just before we finish, let's have a look at this quick video of a real factory making toothpaste.
Wasn't that interesting, seeing that factory and all of those tubes of toothpaste, getting the toothpaste put into it. So many tubes, so quickly at that factory. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story too. It was interesting, wasn't it? Learning a little bit about the history of the toothpaste tube and how they ended up inventing to put the toothpaste in the end of the tube instead of the little part where the cap is. Well, that's the end of the stories for this school year. I hope you all have a really good time on your summer break and looking forward to seeing you next school year. Goodbye.